What up? I'm back. I found something to talk about today. I was looking at SUI and I did some TA on it, so I figured I'd go over it since I haven't made a video in quite a while. But I have been working on some new video ideas, and once it's done, I think it may make up for my absence. But anyways, I've been trading a bit of SUI. You can see some positions down here, and I am still in one trade on SUI. It is this long. I'm in part of this trade. Of course, I took profits as we came up to the range high, but since I took profits in here, I've just been holding it, and it looks like we may be trying to break the range right now. We'll see if we end up wicking it out once again. Today, I wanted to go over some more higher time frame stuff for SUI. It did retrace a lot. It came down to a key zone I was watching, and we aren't really seeing the greatest bottom signals on Market Cipher. I will say that. Market Cipher does look sketchy, but I'm not gonna, discount the idea of this potentially being a bottom, because I know that not every low has, great looking divergences. So I will very quickly run over this higher time frame TA that I just drew up and kind of go over some of these arrows that I got going on here, because currently I am watching price action, and I think if we start reclaiming very significant levels, then that would, really increase my confidence in this being a significant bottom. So firstly, I'll go over market structure. So we had a market structure break bearishly right over here. I'm looking at the daily time frame, so very clear uptrend. We'll skip over some points. We don't need to mark out every single retracement, but the last higher low was right here, and we had a bearish break. Following that bearish break, we got a very quick move to the downside, and price wicked back up. Now, that's kind of a tough predicament to be in, because this is not a retracement on the daily time frame. I can't look at this as lower low and then lower high. That doesn't work. There's only one candle there. So that kind of messes up the structure a little bit, but we have since come down to take out this wick low, and we took out the low of the wick, got a nice little retracement, and have now come down to put in another lower low. So we have continued the structure on the daily time frame. Now, this is clearly a much smaller move than some of these moves that we were seeing over here. But regardless, we're still looking on a high time frame. If you want to call this 12-hour structure, 8-hour structure, whatever you want to say, it doesn't really matter. It's the most significant thing that we have currently. I pulled an anchored VWAP from this low, this last significant, I don't know if you want to call this a monthly higher low technically. I don't really know what the price action before it looked like, so it might not even be a higher low, but it was the last, very significant low before we broke higher. Kind of went on that little bull run for SUI, so I pulled an anchored VWAP from there, and we are retesting it. We kind of ranged below it a little bit and are now trying to get above it as we're breaking that local range high. So that is a little bit of confluence to go along with this being a significant support area. Then I wanted to check for some significant levels to the upside, so I pulled a fib from the high all the way down to the low. I pulled a fixed range from the high to the low, looking at the volume of this move to the downside. I pulled an anchored VWAP from the high, and that gave some confluence to my ideas. First, the point of control of the down move is coming in before our lower highs, so that's going to be like, resistance before we get to the real decision point. And I've also marked out some areas of resistance just above that market structure point. So, obviously I'm not going to be marketing into some kind of swing long or buying SUI as soon as we get a move above this high, because it very well could be an SFP. And that, wouldn't give me a great trade to begin with. So I'm not going to be doing that. I want to see a significant break. And then from there, maybe I can look to trade it if it retraces or ranges. That's the way I like to do it. And the anchored VWAP from the high is also kind of coming in this area. So, we could technically even get above this area, just reject off of that anchored VWAP from the high. And, maybe that's where we get a large retracement. Maybe that even ends up putting in a lower low. But, if it's a significant break above this point, I think there's not really that much reason to come back down to this low, although it can still happen, of course. That'll just be another, significant resistance that we'll have to get above once we get past this point. And maybe by the time we get up there, this thing has moved down significantly. So then we can kind of look at that more as like a, sign of a significant close. If we can get above the anchored VWAP as well, then it's starting to look really good. And if we can get above all of that resistance, I think we get a move up to the next zone of resistance. Value area high of the down move, golden pocket, and confluence with another resistance area that I marked out here. And I think if we get above that, then I would start looking at this high as my target. It may not just go straight up there. Maybe we range or retrace even from that area. But if we can prove that we can get above this point, if we retrace and there's something bullish, as we start approaching a low, then I would probably start looking at this high over here as a target. So I am currently in a SUI long. It was something that I just traded on the lower time frames. I was trading this range right here, the range that we formed after putting in this low. And I do think if we start breaking this range bullishly, that is another good sign for this low, another step towards, us approaching this high. That would give me a bit more confidence in this low. But as I said, there really wasn't that great of confirmations in terms of divergences. The one thing that I do like is that the weekly is possibly printing a trigger wave. So we got an anchor wave, a deeper wave, and now possibly a not so deep trigger wave to that anchor wave. However, we do have the weekly money flow still coming to the downside, so that is a little frightening. The RSIs are also still pointing down. On the daily time frame, we saw money flow and also I believe momentum. Well, we can technically call that a slight divergence with momentum, but money flow put in a lower low as price did, so that's kind of confluence to go along with the weekly money flow continuing to move to the downside, because so is the daily. And even if this is a very slight divergence here, that's what I like to call a sketchy divergence. It's not clear, there's not clear direction. It's pretty much like, momentum got hammered down here and then also got hammered down here, but it, just barely made a higher low. Coming down to the 12-hour, I will say there's a bit of hope here. We have better divergences, so this is a better looking divergence. It's still not great, but at least you can see direction. We have money flow, not necessarily diverging, but it kind of put in a double bottom. So it's flattening out. Maybe we can look for that kind of plateau reversal where we get, double bottom, kind of flat money flow, and then it just starts curving back to the upside after. And the RSIs on the 12-hour also look decent. I mean, they're starting to work their way to the upside. While we have a bit of local momentum direction here going on as well. I like that. And on the 4-hour, again, much better looking divergences than even on the 12-hour. We have, at least a clear momentum div here, and also clear money flow divergence happening over time. We're continually putting in higher lows, even though we kind of took out this low here, still made a higher low to this one. So we've got, a pretty decent overall money flow curvature happening on the 4-hour. And locally speaking, after we put in this low, as we started ranging, we saw a nice, kind of overall reset of the money flow once again, where it started coming down to the bottom and now is curving back to the upside and is just now crossing into the green. Some pretty decent looking momentum direction here. And momentum is also now trying to put in a higher high, so kind of continuing that direction to the upside. So yeah, like I said, there's kind of some sketchy looking market cipher signs when it comes to this low on the higher time frames. The lower time frames aren't looking as bad. And also, I think if we start breaking above key resistance, then it doesn't really matter if we had divergences or not. But if we are not able to, break this high, maybe we even end up putting in another lower high and coming back to the downside. That could make for a better looking market cipher setup. We could see much better divergences on the higher time frames. So I'm also considering that scenario. And this is higher time frame stuff. This may not end up having any developments for quite a while, and we may end up just ranging in between these two significant points. But I want to be aware of, the important decision points, because if and when we get there, I want to be prepared and I want to know what I'm looking for. Alright, I think that's it. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. I appreciate the support, and I will be back with more videos soon. I'll see you in the next one.